How much does reputation matter? When it comes to choosing an attorney, it matters a lot. That's why folks across Wisconsin have trusted the attorneys at Habish, & Rodier for nearly 100 years. While they've built a national and statewide reputation for winning cases, here in Madison, they're your neighbors. Deeply rooted in the community, their attorneys are personally committed to helping clients recover with the kind of hometown service Madison knows and loves. For all types of personal injury cases, Habish is the name locals trust. Habish, & Rodier, national reputation, hometown service. Visit habish.com or call 1-800-2-HABISH. Want some summer fun for a good cause? Loop the Lake is coming up Saturday, June 14th. It's a go-at-your-own-pace bike ride benefit for Clean Lakes Alliance, presented by Lake Ridge Bank. Riders start and end at Olbert Park and travel 13 miles clockwise around Lake Winona. And perk? Kids 10 and under ride free with a paid adult. You in? Sign up for Loop the Lake today. Go to cleanlakesalliance.org/loop-the-lake and use code BIKE10 to save 10%. Today on CityCast Madison. Happy June and thus happy Pride Month. Our city prides itself on a lot of things, like being an inclusive and safe place for LGBTQIA+ people to live and enjoy. That said, how gay-friendly is Madison? Like, really? We wanted to dish, so we invited some gays about town on the pod to get into it. It's Monday, June 2nd. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. We're diving in. How LGBTQ+ friendly is Madison? Joining me to answer that question is Sanders Weinberg, local comedian and program coordinator with the Gender and Sexuality Center at UW-Madison. How are you, Sanders?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
And our very own producer, Jade Isiri Ramos. Hey, girl, hey.
Hey, Bianca. Hey, Sanders.
Hey.
Let's not even wait 1 second before getting right to it. Gut reactions. Is Madison really queer friendly? Sanders, you're starting us off.
Oh, okay. I would say I feel like yes and I feel like just like any city, you're like in Madison, you find the queer friendly spots, you find the queer haunts, and you go to those and you just keep going to those until you're sick of them. And then you try desperately to find another one. So, and I also feel like what's dope about Madison is what makes it queer friendly to me is you can walk down the street and see queer coded people frequently. That is probably, I think, what differentiates it from like any other city. Cause I do like part of me, when you asked this question, I was like, my initial reaction was yes. And then I was thinking, okay, but do we all just kind of go to the same places?
Right.
Because that's happening in any city, you know, or town even, like a small town or, you know, so that's when I started to have pause a little bit because I was like, wait, do we all just kind of go to the same places? But I do feel like what makes it queer friendly or what gives it some queer friendly points is that you can walk down the street and see queer coded folks, trans coded folks, gender bendy folks. Like there is that aspect to it that I don't think you're going to be getting in many cities like of the same size.
That's so fair.
Yeah, it's such a good point, Sanders. As you say, that's like, yeah, my Madison's gay, right? The Madison that I'm in is like super gay and in that realm, gay friendly. But I do also think, you know, my gut reaction is Madison's gay friendly because there are so many queer folks out here who are running businesses and organizing and like in leadership.
Our mayor is gay, a representative Pocan,
and we have Tammy Baldwin. Like we have queer people who are leading in every different realm of Madison and of Wisconsin. So I think Madison is gay friendly.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. And then as same like you guys, asterisk, wait a second. Is it because it's a small city? Are we self-selecting? But the same thing that Jade said, which was like, yeah, our mayor, our council is gay AF. There's a lot of gay people on our council. But I also wanted to shout out, I know Tone Madison, there was a piece done there a couple years ago titled, Madison is perfect, in quotes, for LGBTQ folks, if you're cis, white, and well off. And that was written by a former guest writer, Emily Mills, who was on the podcast. And I just feel like that, you know, Madison was actually, back in 2023, scored 100% on the Human Rights Coalition Municipality or City Equality Index. I checked last year. We also scored 100%. And it's just like, yes, because it's like we got the representation. And it's kind of asking, you know, about equality and like how well you can live in the city, but also there's some bendiness all around, right? So we're going to get into it. We're going to have fun. We're going to keep it real. We're going to spill some tea and talk the good, the bad, and the sparkly. Are you guys ready?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
I think all of us should sort of share our perspective and our orientation to this conversation for folks who are listening, because they might not know. But like, what is your connection to the queer community?
Yeah, so I came out as a lesbian when I was in college. I would say my junior year of college, which I felt like a late bloomer at that time. And yeah, it was like the lesbian to the non-binary to the trans pipeline. You know, it was like I went on all the rides.
It's a good pipeline.
Yeah, it's a great pipeline. So yeah, it was like I'm a lesbian, and then it was like, well, maybe I'm just queer. You know, I was like really, that was kind of around the time when we were reclaiming like queer as an identity. So then I was kind of more into that. Eventually started using they, them pronouns after I graduated college. Actually, when I started grad school, I think at UW La Crosse is when I started using they, them pronouns. And yeah, I started hormones in 2019 and have been on that journey since then. And like my experience as a queer person and therefore as a queer person in Madison has changed over the last couple of years because I've just started passing as a man and oftentimes presumed like a straight cis man, which is a wild world.
It's a new experience.
The locker rooms, the bathrooms, you don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, so I feel like, yeah, my experience has changed and I'm still like honestly unpacking a lot of that and settling into this new world that I'm a part of and just the way I move through the world and things like that. But yeah, I mean, when I moved here in 2020, I identified as a trans man, but I was not passing. So I was being read as like a butch lesbian. So yeah, that was like complicated. I was also bartending at the time. So I was like always on display, you know, kind of just like that was happening very frequently. And so my experience, you know, my first couple years in Madison are very different than my experience now.
So you've seen like different shades, which makes you a perfect person to ask about like how LGBTQ friendly is Madison really? Because you've had different experiences literally in this city.
Yeah.
And how about you, Jade?
Yeah, so I identify as queer, sort of blanket Q. I like that identifier. And for what it's worth, I am married and I'm in a very queer marriage.
Yes. We're like, Jade, you're coming on the show. You got takes and you're funny.
I put on my Hot Summer Gaze t-shirt and everything for you.
Yeah. Your guys' outfits are crushing it. And you're also wearing like pink heart glasses that folks definitely need to see. I'll share just kind of in this conversation, my orientation is like, I'm attracted to everyone. I think if I were to identify with anything, it would be bi. But I have to also say that I have a straight white boyfriend. So I do know how scary the bathrooms are. I'll just say it's a whole thing. That said, you know, I'm also biracial. I'm half black, half white, so I'm used to being kind of in the interstitials. And my siblings both are queer, so they always brought me to Madison before I moved here. I moved to Madison for college. I moved away and I came back, but I've always been in the queer spaces, so I'm excited to be a part of the conversation. Let's just dive in and talk about nightlife. Because Sanders, I know you've been in the service industry here. Like, where are the gay clubs and bars that you would find like as key and core?
Yeah, I moved to Madison in 2020, which was a wild time to move anywhere, I will say. And I got a service industry job right away at the Great Dane, which is not a gay haunt by any means, I would say. But slowly but surely, we're getting there.
I've seen you. I've seen you there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's turning.
Well, it's funny because the Great Dane it's a brew pub, so it's kind of giving that like cis het vibes. There's like 50 TVs. It's giving sports bar, but actually the downtown one, like half our staff are queer and trans. So it's interesting. Like we're trying to slowly take it over a little bit, reclaim that space. But I wouldn't list it in like the top, queer gay spaces. But
up and coming.
hey, ask me again next year. You never know. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about Cardinal reopening. Cardinal reminds me of a lot of the spaces that I loved when I was first discovering my queer identity, which they weren't like rainbow flag out in the... I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these places, but they weren't like rainbow flag out in the front, drag shows every night. A lot of those places to me end up centering like white cis gay men. And I feel like Cardinal, not just in their vibe, but also in the programming that they put on, is focusing on a very different like queer community, a very different queer experience, and trying to like target a different audience. So I was really stoked when Cardinal reopened. I didn't even get to experience like pre-Cardinal because I moved here in 2020. So the Cardinal that we have now is the only Cardinal I've ever known. And I find that to be like one of my favorite queer spaces, I would say.
I think you're right, Sanders. They seem to be like sort of reaching out, like they're trying to reach out to every edge of like the queer spectrum and pulling them in with some sort of night or dance or just something. If maybe you don't like to dance, but you want to craft with other queers, like that's something that's happening at Cardinal for sure. I'll also bring up, like, we do have some of, like you were saying, Sanders, the more, this is a gay club, right?
And those spaces are great too.
yeah. So we have Five Nightclub, which is really our only like gay nightclub in Madison. It's kind of it's a little bit on the outskirts. It's across the Beltline. They have fun events, lots of drag, lots of dancing that happens there.
And because it's an OG, and it's on the outskirts because before is like that's where you could have a gay club.
Then we've got Woofs and Shamrock, both around the square, which are like Woofs in particular, is a bear bar. And Shamrock, I think, is a little bit more geared towards just like queer identity in general.
And by bears, we're talking big burly men with hair.
I'm talking about grizzlies,
and
black bears,
in human form,
and brown bears, and koala bears, all the bears that you can,
Yeah, and we talked about Cardinal. Do you want to talk about other events that happen, Jade?
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned earlier that I'm wearing my Hot Summer Gays t-shirt. So there's not a ton of bars that are necessarily like, this is a gay bar, but there are a lot of pop-ups that happen around town. So Hot Summer Gays and Dyke Dive, those are sort of companion events that happen throughout the year. L Pub is a lesbian pop-up bar. And there's a couple others that go on around town that I'm not maybe necessarily as a part of. But one thing that I saw recently that I did not attend, but I wish I did, was gays in the park eating garlic bread. So I'm looking for more of those, just random in the middle of the day. We're eating garlic bread in the park.
We need more of that. Yeah.
Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant. 9.5 plus pH, now in cans.
Refreshing.
Made for every way you move.
Should I run a marathon?
Let's start with finishing that water. Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant, now in a sleek can. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Madison's got a rich drag scene, I think. Like,
Totally.
We've got contenders, right?
I agree. It's a really strong drag scene.
We compete above our weight, I think, in the drag scene.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I remember like Trixie Mattel would come hang out here. Like we've got a circuit like between Milwaukee and Madison. We want to talk a little bit of hot takes. And Jade, you've got some thoughts about drag and how it fits into the scene. We should probably mention, we said that 5, there's a weekly drag show and annual competitions that happen there. And we do have drag bingo on Comedy at State, like Delta Beer Lab, Cardinal, Lucille, drag brunches everywhere. Jade, what's your hot take?
Let me just say, like, I love drag, right? Drag is gay. You know, I'm not saying drag's not gay, but drag isn't necessarily just for the gays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Drag is this, like, it's like a stained glass window for which, like, the outside world can peer into, like, queer culture. I think a lot of, like...
Be drowned in light.
Yeah. And I love that. But I also think that occasionally you might say, oh, it's going to be fun to go to a drag brunch, and you are the only, like, queer group of friends who are there besides the performers.
Yeah.
I've seen that at drag bingo for sure. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, this is a sea of white women.
I feel like drag, maybe it's also like drag in Wisconsin too, has like, I feel like for drag bingo is a great example. I went to drag bingo and I was like, I'm surprised there is a drag show in this bar. Like I went in there feeling so stressed, like as a, like a visibly queer person at the time, you know, like I was not passing, you know. And I was like, I think people are here for the bingo and the drag second, you know, so I definitely agree with that. I feel like the drag brunches, the drag bingo, like if you go to that, you will likely be like one of the few queer people in attendance.
Yeah, and I know I know you be watching RuPaul's Drag Race because you talk about it.
Me
I
too,
love
me
some
too.
RuPaul's Drag Race.
I'm still here. It's like,
yeah,
season
It's
17,
life.
I'm still here.
I'm still here, yeah. All Stars 10, I'm still here.
I'm still here.
One of the things I love about queerness is the idea of inclusion, right? Like everybody gets to be included, and making an accepting space like is not the easiest thing to do, right? But when we talk about spilling tea, like there are divisions within the gay community, right? In terms of different spaces, like, and this could definitely be its own episode, but like, I'm just going to start with from where I'm standing. Like I've definitely seen things, experienced things where folks are more exclusive than inclusion. Talking from my very marginalized bisexual identity, just like, and I've heard from other bi women who, you know, are out here, you know, maybe dating straight men, but they're like, oh, I want to be included, but also I feel like I'm not gay enough. So that's one thing that I've seen and heard, a sort of like clickiness, I guess. And then, you know, in that same realm of divisions, like I'm thinking about, you know, transgender people and non-binary folks, like, is there a very like inclusive environment amongst the gays?
I think you're right in calling out that clickiness, but I don't think it's necessarily queer specific. Like I don't think that like clickiness exists only in queer spaces. I kind of think clickiness is like a human experience.
Universal.
And we tend to group and include people that we identify with or that we feel safe around. And so I think sometimes the maybe like really cold shoulder that you might feel from queer folks is like almost a little more like self-protective than anything. You're sort of you know, we're a group of people who are like I have had to mold myself and adapt myself to be presentable in straight spaces for so long, and I'm not going to do that here in the space that I like consider queer.
I definitely feel that like self-protective or self-preservation, like, you know, this is my group. I've carefully curated it. I finally feel comfortable in this group to like express myself, my sexuality in a way that's freeing, my gender in a way that's freeing, my body in a way that's like sexy and safe and confident and good. I feel like body freedom is such a big part of like the queer experience, whether you're trans, cis, non-binary, any of that. I feel like just being able to express your body and your gender in that way is like really freeing. So I totally feel that like self-preservation aspect. I think I run into that myself, like Bianca, what you were saying, like, am I queer enough? I feel like I run into that a lot more now that I pass than I did before, because I'm like, you know, a couple years post top surgery, like you can barely see my scars anymore. I have a full beard now. My voice has deepened a lot. I tend to like to wear basketball hats, you know, for basketball teams. So there's a lot of things that I feel like people read me and they think like cis man. And so a lot of times I struggle even in queer spaces. And I also get like that vibe of like, you know, wanting to keep your group real tight and this bearded man that's approaching us, you know, or, you know, whatever it might be. Like I went to a couple of the like Sappho secret dance parties that were at Cardinal early on when it first started. And I started to feel like maybe this space isn't really for me, which isn't a bad thing. Like it is a sapphic space and it's hard to like mourn kind of like I was a part of this sapphic community. I don't know necessarily how I fit into it these days. But it wasn't like I went into Sappho Secret. Everyone was like, come on in, you know, like, and I get why they weren't.
Yeah.
Because I also know how rare it is to have like a sapphic space, you know, and yeah.
So, like, overall, would you say the spaces for your identity feel inclusive and you, like, have had, it's not cliquey, you're not feeling, like, negative anything about the way you look or anything like that? Like, for people that are listening, maybe sometimes people who don't even live here listen to the podcast, like, what their experience would be like.
I think that maybe I am very selective of the places that I put myself in, but I have generally like felt like all my identities were respected and accepted in the spaces that I put myself in within the queer community.
Yeah. I went to a karaoke bar on campus and it was like everyone was 22 and under and it was the queerest space. And I was like, I am not cool enough to be in here. I'm starting to feel like my 33-year-old knees. Like I'm starting to be the old crowd.
It's the age more than anything these days.
Well, that's hard too. I feel like us being a college town, a lot of the queer spaces tend to swing really young. Like I went to a drag show in Seattle. It was like the best drag show I've ever been to. Partially because most of the crowd were above 30 or late 20s and up. Most of them were like queer, gender bendy. Like it was not like cis male dominated. It was like racially diverse. It was like ability
Utopia.
diverse, body diverse. I mean, it was amazing. And the music was good. I was like, I need this. I want this in Madison. I do feel like a lot of times it just swings so young. Yeah.
Well, you're the program coordinator for the Gender and Sexuality Campus Center at UW-Madison. So we did want to ask, like, what's the culture like on campus for queer students?
Yeah, I mean, I just started in December, so I'm still fairly new to the role. But I mean, the Gender Sexuality Center itself it's vibrant. Like, it's always bumping. There's students in there at all times. They're, you know, in there between classes. They're there till close. They're there right at open. And I guess that what that tells me is like it is important to have those spaces. You know, I think a lot of students have positive experiences on UW's campus. And I think having like a dedicated center where they can go and, you know, kind of have that experience that we've all talked about where we've got our safe group of friends. We have our group where we feel we can express ourselves in all the complexities that we have within us. Like, those spaces are still needed. So what that tells me is like it's not in any way to say that UW's campus is like liberated by any means. I mean, it's a microcosm of what we're talking about really here. So, you know, experiences vary, but I'm like super grateful to be working at the GSCC and to be working in a space that's trying to like cultivate the like liberated connections that we all like grow up to really cherish, you know?
Yeah. I remember that being an incredibly safe space, and I love that you highlighted community and like cultivating that in these shared spaces of joy and safety. I want to ask you both, and I'll start with you, Jade. How does living in Madison compare to the other places you've lived?
Yeah, so I will say most of my like not college adulthood has been in Madison, which I think is a different level of like intentional community than previously, right? Like in high school,
You get who you get.
yeah, my community are the people who I go to school with. In college, it's people who I go to college with, you know? And Madison is a little bit more, has been me intentionally building community. And so when I was in college, I was like very involved in rugby, and that was like my queer space, right? And we'll get into it, but largely like sports is sort of like where I've also found community here. And so I think in that way, the gays are doing sports sometimes.
Yeah, what sports are they doing, Jade?
Yeah, so I play on the Badgerland Pride Softball League. My spouse is a part of the Madison Gay Hockey Association. I'm interested in trying the Madison Minotaurs Rugby Club, which just became gender inclusive. So it's no longer just a gay men's rugby club. It's now for all genders. And like that's just like the ones that I personally am involved in. There's like running clubs, there's biking clubs, there's climbing clubs. Like if you have a sport in Madison, either there's a club that already exists for you to play or there's other queers who are waiting for you to start the club. That's my hot take.
True.
Are you sportsy, Sanders?
I haven't gotten super into like playing sports in Madison at all. I played basketball like my whole life growing up, and there was like I was just joking around with my friends the other day. There was a small group of queers that were getting together when I first moved here to play basketball. And I was going to go, and then I read the fine print on the email, and it was like, this is for queers who are, like, not very good at basketball. They just want to have a good time. And, like, I love
no.
that. And I want them to have that space. No. I don't want that. Because I played competitively for so long, so it's like... I was joking around because I feel like when I was younger, even like me and my like girlfriend group, like they would try to play basketball with me, and I would just get kind of mad because I was like, no, I like want to be at the same like level, and it's just not as fun for me to just be like bricking the ball for 2 hours, like. So I haven't found my fit yet. Yeah. But I also want to say, those queers, keep hooping, keep doing your thing. I'm just gonna, cheer you on from over here. But
hoop dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're trying to play a little intense ball, you know where to find Sanders.
Yeah.
Come find Sanders.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And sports isn't for everyone, right? Like we have tons of queer-owned businesses in Madison, like some standout nonprofits, like advocacy groups like G Safe, which Sanders, I just saw you at their gala the other day. They advocate and support LGBTQ youth, and tons of places that do celebrate and embrace queer art and culture. Do y'all have a favorite queer-owned business or nonprofit, Sanders?
I mean, I'll definitely plug Room. I love Room. I think they do like
a room of one's own bookstore on Atwood. Yeah.
I love the organizing they do. I think they're incredible, like catalysts for change in Madison and beyond. I was gonna say earlier too, like I want to acknowledge like a lot of the things we're naming are also very inaccessible for disabled folks, for compromised folks. And I feel like Room centers their program like on intersectional identities, specifically the most like disenfranchised, disadvantageous, like those communities. So I just want to like acknowledge that too. I just think Room does a great job of like putting on educational events, fun events, artsy events, sober events, masked events. Like they just really diversify their programming. And I think they engage a lot of queer folks who don't normally get engaged in our programming.
Also shout out the employee recommends. Like I get, I don't know, like 50% of my reads from just the books that they recommend. A really good resource. I would say, I'm going to sort of, this is a cheat, but the Big Gay Market, which has been like going on for the last few years and has a couple markets every year. It's like, this is a way to shout out like any small creator who's like, if you're making crochet, if you're blowing glass, like you can find anything at the Big Gay Market. And those are really fun pop-ups. And again, like a really great place to be like, I think that's how I found out about the softball team that I play on.
It's really exploded too. I feel like it's grown so much in the last few years.
I'll shout out one, the LGBT Books to Prisoners program. That was one of the first things I kind of got involved in Madison doing that work, and it's really meaningful, and we did have a conversation with them. So if you want to look that up, definitely do that. Y'all, this conversation, we really needed like 7 hours, but we really tried our best to condense it. There's going to be, we'll have online resources that link to all kinds of things. But as we're wrapping up the conversation, what is Madison missing, Sanders? If anything.
Yeah. I mean, I would say more of like the gays in the park eating the garlic bread. I think it's missing a lot of like non-drinking centered trans and queer programming. It's happening. I just think proportionally speaking, I think we could have even more. Being Wisconsin, being a college town, a lot of the programming and events that happen are like at bars or centered around drinking. And I think
It's a problem.
yeah, we would really benefit from just more, and that is not to say it's not happening, because it absolutely is. But I would love even more.
How about you, Jade?
I think that a lot of what is queer community is so alcohol centered that it feels like you can't necessarily do anything without also like drinking 3 gin and tonics, right? And so I think that's a huge thing that it's missing, or what could be better about Madison's gay scene. But one thing that I think is really empowering about being in Madison is that when you see things that are missing, it is not hard to work with a business who's like, yeah, sure, you can like use our space on Thursdays to have your vinyl night for queers, right? And so I think that like if there's something that is missing in Madison, I think it's relatively easy to start it.
Preach, honestly, and build that community. You guys, we really hit a lot, and it's been super fun. Final verdict for 2025. How gay friendly is Madison? Sanders, out of 5 jockstraps.
Oh, out of 5 jockstraps?
Or fill in your adjective of choice.
Yeah, I would give it... I'm a harsh critic, so just know that.
No, that's good.
I would give it like 3.75 strap-ons.
I'm a friendly critic.
We need the balance.
We need the balance.
Yeah.
But I also believe there's certainly room for improvement. So I will give it 4 iced oat milk lattes.
Oh, I love it.
I'm going to defer to Sanders. I'm going to do 3.75 sparkles. Y'all, it's been queer. It's been fun. Thank you so much for coming on. And we do have to return this conversation because there's more to talk about.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Sanders.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, Jade.
Thanks, Bianca.
That was Sanders Weinberg, local comedian and program coordinator at UW-Madison's Gender and Sexuality Center. And our very own producer, Jade Isiri Ramos. Heads up, we've got a Madison Minutes write-up that highlights June Pride events. So to access that, head to our website at madison.citycast.fm. That's all for today, here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, your host. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this episode with a gay about town? All right, we'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until next time, sashay away and sissy that wow.